Competency-based interviews is the most popular interview technique at the moment. And competency-based interviewing, or otherwise known as situational-based interviewing or behavioural-based interviewing, is basically where an employer is looking for you to give an example of where you've demonstrated certain behaviours in the workplace. Sorts of questions and the sorts of competencies and skills that you're going to be tested on an interview does depend very much on the role that you're going to be interviewed for. An employer might ask you something like, what achievement are you most proud of? And that will be assessing your personal motivation and how you tackle challenges. You might be asked to give an example of how you've planned and prepared for a large piece of work. So that would be testing your planning and organisational skills. You can always use examples from your academic background, so examples of where you've taken part in coursework, examples of perhaps where you've done some work experience, institute directors, young enterprise, that sort of thing. You can also use sort of extracurricular activities. Perhaps you're part of a football club, therefore you're working as a team. Are you the social secretary for your gymnastics club or something like that, or part of a youth club, or any involuntary work that you've done as well? That can also be used, and use examples of where you've done that. Alternatively, you could use examples from perhaps social and friendship groups. You might want to use a framework called the STAR model when structuring your answer. And what the STAR model is, the S stands for the situation, so what was the situation? The T stands for the task, what was the problem or the task that you were faced with? The A stands for the action, so what did you actually do and what were perhaps the challenges or the obstacles that you faced? And the R stands for the result, so what was the outcome, what was achieved? But beware, during a competency-based interview, the interviewer might actually then probe further. So if you're given an example, make sure you're able to talk freely and can talk around the subject wherever possible. One of the key questions that you might be asked in an interview is, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And that's a key one. You've got to be careful with your weaknesses. Everybody has weaknesses and everybody has development areas, but you've got to show how you manage those weaknesses and what you have done to try and build on those and how you manage those in the workplace. Never talk generally. Always be really, really specific and give one specific example of where you've demonstrated that behaviour. Wherever possible, use I as opposed to we, because the employer wants to know what you did, what you achieved and what you delivered during that particular situation. And try and use examples that are relevant to the role that you're applying for as well, wherever possible.